Hi everyone, welcome to this channel. Today I will share with you my story of natural, unmedicated childbirth in Italy. So before I start telling you step by step what happened, when was my due date, my symptoms and everything, I would like to give you a little bit of a context. So I chose to give birth at a private birthing center called Maternity Home here in Italy. And the center is located 2 hours drive from where we live. We live in a quite remote location, and in our region, we could not find midwives that would assist us in this birthing process here at home. Ideally, this is what we wanted, to have home birth, but we couldn't. So our second choice was to find a private birthing center. And I will make a separate video. I will try to link it in the description of this video about, my impression and everything we experienced there. So you see for yourself whether it's something you would like to explore. Okay, another important thing I want to share is that my baby was born 11 months ago. And the reason why I am making all this content now is because I don't have a privilege to be only the mother. I am a working mom. I work remotely at home. So although I was planning to make a content and share all this information, I had no capacity to do it earlier. But I was taking notes. I remember everything like it was yesterday. So hopefully all this information will be useful and will inspire you to also go through natural labor. Okay, so let's get started. So for the record, I did not have classic symptoms advising me of upcoming labor. So my water didn't break until the moment my baby was born. I didn't have any spotting. I didn't lose mucus plug. The only thing I had was some mild cramps that felt like period cramps and the actual contractions. Okay. So hope it gets interesting for you. One day before my due date, on 29th of October, I started feeling those cramps. And they began when I woke up in the morning, about 6:30, and then they stopped around 8 a.m. And I remember this because I wanted to grab a camera and I wanted to go to the bathroom. Tomorrow is my due date. I have no idea when I will come into labor, but early morning today is 29th of October, 2024, I started feeling period cramps. So finally there is some kind of sign something is happening. The longest cramp-like pain lasted about 3 minutes. So that was quite noticeable for me. It was like the first thing I've ever felt. That was one day before due date. So I remember I texted my midwife and I told her about this, and she said, "That's great. Thank you for sharing. We will wait for other symptoms. It looks like everything is slowly starting, and the labor might progress in the next few days." So I got really excited, but at the same time, I was like, yeah, but I have no idea what to expect because I wasn't given any guidelines, and my midwife didn't do it on purpose because she didn't want me to be influenced by some ideas because everyone is unique. So she absolutely didn't want to share anything. And the only kind of points of reference for me were videos of other mothers. So that's why I thought it would be really useful if I share something like that. So you have some ideas, but at the same time, don't take anything for granted. The next sign was happening, I think, the next day in the morning on the 30th, but also in the afternoon. I think they started around 4 p.m. and they stopped 8 p.m. But these cramps didn't make a huge impression on me because I was waiting for something sensational. I was waiting for some pain. I was like ready for it. I was like, yeah. And because I was watching other videos, I thought that when I get these cramps, these unbearable pain-like cramps and things like that, this might last for 2 days, not even 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. That's what other women were sharing. So I was basically waiting for something incredibly painful, and I knew that I wouldn't go to labor like right away. So that was my mindset. So since then, I had mild cramps from now and then. It may be also possible that I haven't noticed some of them because I was quite busy. I was just walking around the house. I was cleaning, even though my mother-in-law came to stay with us to take care of our animals. We have 2 dogs, a cat, and ducks. And because we decided to give birth outside home and in the birthing center, we needed someone to come and, take care of the animals. So she visited, she was helping a lot. We had some unfinished projects to deal with, and she was incredibly, incredibly helpful. But I was still kind of, just wanted to be busy and just wanted to walk around and just do different things. And because I was so busy, I probably didn't notice some of these mild period-like cramps. I was probably noticing them when I sat down to maybe have a rest or when I was eating, but they were not unbearable. And I was waiting, as I was saying, I was waiting for something, unbearable, something horrendous. And, nothing was happening. So on the 2nd of November, which is 3 days after my due date, the real contractions started. And the way I knew they were kind of real was they were a bit more intense. And they started in the afternoon, around 5 p.m. I remember we finished eating dinner. Could have been around 6 p.m. actually. Because back then I was eating dinner 5, 6 p.m. and no later. These days is different, but that I remember this was our schedule. So after that, I felt like, wow, something is happening. But, I wasn't still impressed because I was waiting for something bigger. But what was different was that these cramps were happening in intervals. And I remember I was reading that contractions happen in intervals. But back then, because they were not as intense as I thought they would be, I did not associate those cramp-like pains with real contractions. But I thought, maybe I will measure them. And then I opened an app I saw other moms were using. And I remember my husband looked at me like, you really think it's that? Like, he was a little bit laughing. I was laughing because I also didn't believe this could amount to anything. So I started recording them. And I think there was like 20-minute interval. Later, it was 15-minute interval. But what was interesting is that they were coming back, right? Whereas with menstrual cramps, you didn't feel anything was coming back in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It was just kind of constant and then nothing for a long time, for 1 hour, 2 hours, and then again little constant. So these were different and I should have maybe paid better attention, especially because of the fact it was after my due date. So, but nevertheless, I didn't think it would be anything serious because I was expecting something really, really painful and I was prepared to bear with this pain for 1, 2, or even 3 days before going to labor. So I was like relaxed. I was like, okay, I was just measuring them, maybe for fun. But what happened later in that evening, around I think 7 p.m., was that they were happening every 8 minutes. Okay, so I recorded them because I was so, I think, a little bit distracted by what's happening. Like, okay, so they were 20 minutes apart, then 10 minutes apart, now 8 minutes apart, and they can't be real because they are not so intense. So I remember I made some mistakes on this app, and then I little bit lost the track. Again, I told my husband, told my mother-in-law, like, probably I have some kind of contractions, but probably they are not real. And everyone was laughing. And yes, so around 9 p.m., they became a bit more intense. Like I needed to sit on the birth ball. And I continued taking note. And I think they still happened every 8 minutes. And I still thought, maybe I'm just imagining it. Maybe these are just cramps. And I remember I went to the shower like 9:30, and I remember I was so tired that day. I really wanted to go to sleep around 9 because I was cleaning, walking, not even resting. I don't know why. And I went to the shower and I was like, oh, great, I will just go to sleep. And tomorrow morning we will continue with these strange cramps. But in the shower, I noticed they are happening like very, very often, like maybe every 3 minutes. I took this up and I started recording. I was in the shower and I look, another contractions starting in 3 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, I was like, okay, the fourth one, the fifth one is starting in like 3 minutes. I was like, what is going on? This is impossible. How the contractions that started around 5 p.m. could become, they could occur every 3 minutes. Like this is nothing I've seen in those videos. This is impossible. So I was like a bit stressed. I remember I texted my midwife and I told her like, okay, this is happening every 3 minutes now. These are a bit more intense. And she responded to me that, okay, maybe you should start packing and come. What do you think? How do you feel like? And guess what I responded? I said, nah, I'm fine. We will wait. We'll see what happens. And she said, okay, if you wish, if you feel like that, that's fine. Maybe take a warm shower and see if those contractions ease. I was like, yeah, great. I will take another shower. But that was, I think, around 10 p.m. where I thought, do I really feel like taking another shower? I went to the bathroom and then I felt the urge to go to the toilet. Like, it was unbelievable. I felt pain near my butt and I thought, oh my gosh, what is happening now? And then I was sitting on toilet and I had these contractions. They were still occurring every 3 minutes and I didn't know what to do. It was really difficult to do the business on the toilet, but I really had to be on the toilet because the stool was very loose. So I think that lasted for like 1 hour. When I finally felt like, okay, I think I'm done with it. It's like, now I need to take the shower. I took the shower and by the time I was done, it was before 12. And these contractions didn't stop. They were happening every 3 minutes. And my husband was already sleeping and I was like, what is happening? Okay, should I text her? I think I wanted to text her. And I think she texted me something. I remember that I read this text the next day and I realized that when she wrote, maybe you should start coming, I didn't register that at all because I really didn't want to move. I felt so bad. I didn't feel like going to the car. I know this is really, really strange behavior, but I just felt like I really want to go to sleep. This is probably nothing. We were talking with my husband about this for so many weeks, like, probably, it's better to go more or less last minute. We don't want to spend like 3 days in the birthing center waiting for labor. We should wait for real signs. So yeah. At 12, I thought I really want to go to sleep, but I couldn't even lie on the bed because these contractions, actually. They were contractions. They were quite intense. So I was sitting on the birth ball and just slowly thinking what to do. Should I wake my husband or should I wait? And I think some of them were getting even more intense than before. And I possibly made some kind of noises, not really loud because my husband didn't wake up and I was in the room with him, but something like, I don't know. I don't remember, but it was not, crazy screaming. But I think my mother-in-law that was in the other room woke up and she came to the room. That was around, I think, 1:30 in the morning. And she asked, what is happening? And I said, I have these contractions since 9 p.m. They are occurring every 3 minutes. But they are probably nothing. I'm just waiting. And she said, Eva, I think you're in labor. I'm like, what? No, that's impossible. At this point, my husband woke up because he heard us talking. And yeah, his mother said that, Eva is probably in labor. What are we going to do something? And he said, nah, it's probably nothing. It's impossible for things to progress that quickly because it's the first pregnancy. Oh yes, that was our argument. In the first pregnancy, things don't progress quickly. This is what was encoded in our brain after watching so many videos, And it's not like I disagreed. I agreed with him. I backed him up. I was like, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's impossible. But she said, as you wish, but I think you're in labor and maybe you should even get an ambulance. We were like, ambulance? What? I think she said that because I might have earlier mentioned something like, oh, even if I was in labor, I wouldn't be able to get in the car because of these pains. So I don't know, maybe I would give birth here at home. I don't know why I said this sentence. It doesn't make any sense because I didn't believe they were real contractions. But at the same time, I just could not imagine myself going into the car because of this pain, which is like contradictory, which basically tells you, okay, this is real stuff. You should be going. But I didn't want to go and I didn't want to wake my husband. So he got really serious when he heard about the idea of ambulance, because ambulance means hospital. And he asked me really seriously, like, Eva, do you want to give birth in a hospital? And I remember I just got sober suddenly. And I was like, no, of course not. I really don't want to. He said, okay, so call your midwife and tell her what is happening and ask her what we should do. And I was like, oh, of course, I should call my midwife. Why I am not in touch with her? I completely lost track of time, guys, and what was happening. So yes, I called her. I told her that these contractions are really intense. I mean, not really, really intense. I could still speak. I could still kind of walk and talk. But I needed to sit on the birth ball. I could manage them well on the birth ball. So yeah, I told her that they were quite intense. And what's scary is that they are still occurring every 3 or even 2 minutes now. And she said we should really come. Like we should really start moving now. And I asked her, yes, but will we have time to get there? Because, guys, we live in the region that is far away from Rome. It's 2 hours drive from Rome, where the birthing center was, maternity home. So I asked her, will we have time to get there? And she said with confidence, yes, you will have time, but you need to pack now. And by packing now, she meant only taking personal stuff, things we will need that we didn't pack before to the hospital bag, because the procedure was in week 37 of pregnancy. We needed to drive there for checkup and also to leave the hospital bag. Everything was prepared. Everything was in the bag. All we had to do is take just few personal belongings. I remember I was last minute packing makeup, toothbrushes, chargers, phone, camera, because I wanted to record everything. But guys, I was in such state that I could not even turn on the camera and even talk in the car. But before we go to the car, let me tell you this. The way I was dressed to that birthing center, you wouldn't believe. I had an oversized men's shirt. Yeah, I was sleeping in my husband's shirt for the past few nights. So I had this on because we didn't want to waste time. I found whatever tracksuits I could find. I had socks, which were like winter socks, because for some reason my feet were cold. So they were like up to my knees, probably over the tracksuit. I have no idea. I took my husband's hoodie and the best thing was my slippers that were half eaten by the dogs, which were garden slippers. I just took them because I didn't even want to bother tying any shoes or anything. I just took whichever slippers were close to the door, which were our garden slippers, and we just went like this. I looked horrendous, but I really didn't care. I really wanted to be on time. And what my husband did, my dear husband, he wanted to ease me in this journey. So he put the birth ball to the car. And this was when I was dressing up. So he took the birth ball and I said, boy, what are you doing? I need this to, dress, because to manage the pain, I really, really had to go to the birth ball from time to time. And he noticed that. And I was asking like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm removing car seat and I am putting birth ball to the car so you can sit on the birth ball in the car. We have medium-sized car. It's like a mini van, so the birth ball fit in there. It's quite spacious in the back, the birth ball is size extra large. So imagine, I needed to bend a little bit to fit under the roof, but it fit. So at the end of the day, I told him, I think it's a good idea. So this is what we will do. My poor mother-in-law looked at us very strangely. She was a bit fearful that we won't make it. But yeah, she was happy with whatever we decided. She was just happy we finally do something about this. So we left house about 2:10 in the morning. I remember I texted Sarah at 2:16. And I texted her that we are moving and we should be there in about 2.5 hours. So because it was the middle of the night, it was very, very empty. The roads were empty. The motorway was empty. Maybe somewhere in some other countries, motorways are packed at night because people work and different things. But here in Italy, even in Rome, the motorway was quite empty. So my husband could go really fast. The other thing was there were some construction works in a really long tunnel between us and Rome. The tunnel is I don't remember how many kilometers, but I think it's about 16. So it's really long. And during the day, there were some delays, only one lane open. So if we were going during the day, we would have to be waiting in the tunnel maybe half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. So that could be up to 1 hour delay. But at night, everything was open, both lanes. So my husband was going really fast. And what I did in the car, I was watching the clock. It was just in front of me and I was counting the contractions interval. And I was begging, I don't know who, I was just begging the universal forces for the contractions to either stop or ease. But they didn't. They were still occurring every 3 or sometimes every 2 minutes. So every time I've seen on the clock, 3 minutes gone, contraction start. So every contraction lasted about 1 minute. And 3 minutes later, again and again and again and again. The journey went really fast because of that, because I was just watching and I was just hoping, we will make it on time. And I remember it was just half an hour left till end of the journey. It was 3:30 in the morning. I looked at the clock. I think I wanted to text Sarah, but I just couldn't. I really wanted to focus on not giving birth in the car. I remember I was making those louder voices. I told my husband it's not because of the pain, it's because of this thing that occurs to me, this force that's coming to me, that's kind of making me push and, making me give birth. So I told him this is not painful, but I really don't know how to deal with it. And he said, you have to breathe slowly. Just breathe slowly. Everything will be okay. So he kept reminding me from time to time to breathe slowly. I tried to do it, but this, I don't know how to explain this. There was this urge to push and I didn't want to push. I was just holding, like you hold pee or poo. This is what I was doing for 2 hours, but especially the last 40 minutes, because that urge to push was becoming bigger and bigger. And we were telling to our daughter, please wait a little bit longer. Please wait a little bit longer. We are almost there. So finally we arrived. I think 4:10 a.m. we were there. We got out of the car. Our midwife came out to greet us because she was expecting us around this time. I remember I was a bit panicky. I told her, Sarah, I really felt like I need pushing, but I was trying to resist. Oh my gosh, I think this is close. I feel this pain near my butt. And she was like, okay, let's calm down. She looked at me. Remember how I was dressed with slippers, half eaten by the dog, and all these men's clothes and everything. Me, my hair really messy, didn't have time to brush. I had no makeup. Oh my gosh, I looked like I was in a mess. But in reality, I was very happy, so happy, the happiest woman in the world that we made it to the birthing center. Because I knew once we get there, everything will be fine. Because I trusted the midwives we've chosen. I've trusted that center, those people. And I knew whatever happens, it will be great. I was just happy I was there and I had that support in me. So yes. At the same time, really wanted to go to toilet. So I said, Sarah, I really need a toilet now. She went with me. I thought I would be private, but no. She went with me. My husband was just watching from the distance, and I told her, oh my God, I have this pain. I think I need a poo. And all of a sudden, I started screaming. I was a bit surprised because I didn't scream like this in the car. Maybe I did. I just didn't remember. You would have to ask my husband. And I remember I looked at my midwife, Sarah, and she kind of smiled, maybe in her eyes, there was something about being suspicious of my behavior. Maybe she didn't even believe anything would be happening, anything urgent. And then I lifted my butt. I don't know why. I thought maybe it would be just easier to, have my butt in the air instead of on the toilet. I have no idea. And then she looked at my vagina and she was like, alrighty, we leave the toilet. I was like, what? But I really need a poo. And she said, no, let's go to the bedroom. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I make a poo now? Everything was ready in the bedroom. The pads were on the floor by the bed. And she asked me to lean by the bed and be on my knees. So this is the birthing position she suggested me to do. And I was like, fine, whatever you suggest, I will follow. I have no better ideas. So this is what I did. And she told me, your baby girl, Fidelina, can't wait to greet you. So let's make it happen. And I was like, really? Like now? And I asked her out of curiosity because in my mind, there were still some terms from other videos I was watching. And I asked her, okay, so am I 10 centimeters dilated? And she said, oh, yes. So imagine this. So I was like, okay, so this is happening now. And I thought to myself, I'm so lucky we made it. I'm so happy I am here. From now on, everything will be great. My husband was in front of me, so he was watching the midwives and, all action, and I was facing the bed. So I remember I was holding his hand, and every time I had contractions, I was just squishing his hand. It was probably really painful for him, but it really helped me. With my other hand, I didn't know what to do with my other hand, so I was squishing the bed sheet. So with both hands, I was like, every time the contraction came, because they were really intense now, and this force was coming into me. It was really inexplicable. To be honest, I don't know if I will be ever able to explain this, but what I can tell you is, because I said these words to them, I remember that these contractions were not painful per se. I did not perceive them as being painful. I just perceived them as being powerful, and they made me scream. I wish I didn't scream. I really, really wanted to be behaving well, being calm and everything, but I was screaming. And I guess this is fine, because I was reading later on that making noises really help you to be in that state of trance when you give birth. So it's really, really helpful to make different noises, and you shouldn't be ashamed of them. I was a bit ashamed, but just couldn't help myself. I just had to, I don't know what was that, but I think it was quite loud, and I think, this is how I had to deal with it. And this force was so powerful. I felt it here in my belly, by my hips. That force made me push a little bit, and that force made me squish my husband's hand and squish this sheet. I don't know. To outsiders, it for sure looked like I am going through tremendous pain, but maybe it was kind of pain. Maybe it was something, something really powerful I felt in my body, but it was not something you wouldn't be able to withstand. It was, I don't know how to explain this. It was really, all I can say, it was really powerful. Powerful energy that guides you through the process of labor. So for this very reason, I think you should really consider cons and pros of this medicine. It's not really medicine, but it's called the epidural. So it's pain relief shot. I really did not want to have it because I was reading about possible side effects for the baby, and the literature is not so rich. Basically, every medical, person would tell you that this is safe, 100% safe. It could be safe per se, but it is also possible that the effects of it you could see even few months or even sometimes years after this happened. I don't know. This is what I read. It's probably minor study or something because everyone says it's safe. But let's even assume this is safe. All it does is makes you basically numb. You don't feel absolutely anything. So if you don't feel anything, how can you give birth, right? Because having experienced that, I just can't imagine not feeling anything because this force is guiding you, okay? This force is telling you what to do. How to push, when to push, in what degree you have to push or not push. I don't know. I think this is really vital to have these kinds of feelings. And many women have actually reported that they don't conceive them as being painful. There are many different Instagram accounts about this. You can read some literature. I was very inspired by the book by Grantley Dick James. I think that was his name. And the book was about childbirth without fear. I will link it down in the description. I've read only half of this book. I didn't manage to finish before the labor, but it was very empowering. Very, very empowering because it explained how you can be influenced by outside factors like environment, like what people tell you before or during the labor. So if their reaction is good or bad, if their reaction is like, oh, it looks like there could be complications or something, if you hear even one sort of thought of things not progressing well, or maybe 1% chance of something not progressing well, you are already influenced by it and you are basically driven by it. So that means that all these external factors affect how you think, and how you think affects how you feel. So if you come to this process with preparedness and confidence, it's very, very possible that you might not feel any pain, especially because you will think that there is no such thing. Even though we were told by our mothers, grandmothers, in movies everywhere, it's like these women are screaming so badly. It feels like they're in such pain. But many of them are not. Many of them are, but mostly because they are expecting this. I think I was expecting some kind of pain, but I was not afraid of it. I was not afraid of any sensations. All I wanted is to go all natural and for my baby to be healthy. That was the most important. So yes, coming back to the story, I felt these sensations, and I remember I was doing these circular movements with my hips. I think it was they were influenced by me being on the birth ball for like almost 9 months. I absolutely loved the birth ball because it was suggested by my midwife that I start sitting on it really, really soon, especially when I do work by my computer. And I absolutely loved it. I loved sitting on it. I was always feeling relaxing. I was always in straight position. And, on the day of famous contractions, it really helped me to relax, being on the birth ball. So I was doing these movements all the time, and I was half of the contraction. So for about 30 seconds, I was making these loud noises. And for the remaining part, I tried to stay calm, and I tried to breathe really deeply. So I tried to I was told by my midwife that I was resisting these contractions because I was doing those breathing exercises. This is what I was reading about. This is what I was watching videos about. And I thought this is what I should be doing. Maybe in some circumstances that would be okay. But in the last phase of labor, my midwife, Sarah, came to me. So she was behind me observing everything. Remember, I was kneeling by the bed. She and other midwife, Daniela, that was assisting. They were basically patient with me. They told me I should trust myself and do what I feel is right. But in the last phase, midwife Sarah came to me, like in front of me. She leaned on the bed in front of me, looked into my eyes and said, Eva, it's very important that you start pushing because you're not really pushing. She said, I was like, oh, okay. Like you're not pushing for real. You have to start doing this. And you have all that force to push is within you. Only you can do it, she said. Only you are in power to do it, and you have to do it right. You have to start doing this now because it's really important for your baby to be born soon. You know what was my first thought? My first thought was what I encoded in my mind. In my mind, I encoded that after watching videos and after some hypnobirthing videos, I didn't take the hypnobirthing course. I was just watching other mothers talking about it. At the end of the day, I didn't feel like this is something for me, but I was just, curious. And I remember there was one phrase said by someone, and they said that during the labor, you don't have to push because all of this is happening naturally. The baby is progressing naturally down. So you don't have to do any work. All you have to do is relax, have those muscles relaxed, and it will all happen by itself. And if you start pushing, that means you will have tears. And I didn't want to have any tears. I didn't want to have any stitches. I was like, yeah, so I won't be really pushing. I will be trying to be as relaxed as possible. But when Sarah told me those words, I was like, oh my gosh, I really did not want to push. I don't want to have any tears. But my second thought was like, okay, if she's so serious, if she comes to me and said this to my face and tells me, Fidelina, my baby has to be born like really soon, I was like, okay, I guess I have to listen to her. So then I started pushing, and I think after 3 or 4 contractions of these push phases, full minute of pushing, before I was doing just half minute pushing, full minutes of pushing, 3 or 4 minutes. So that could have been around maybe 20 minutes in total, something like that. My baby was born. The last push, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was quite intense. It was quite, I felt some, how to explain this? Not itchiness, but I felt like, oh my gosh, something is coming through. Something is just, coming through me like really, really hard. Yeah. So that was just one of the last 2 pushes. I felt something that could amount to pain or real pain, but that lasted for maybe a few seconds and that's it. Maybe 10 seconds. I don't know, maybe 20 seconds. And that was quite intense, and I was shouting very loud because I felt this pain for the first time. Like, wow, oh my gosh, this is happening. She's coming. Oh my gosh, her head is coming. But once it came through, that was maybe after 10 seconds of the only real pain I felt, she was just out there. And I remember I looked at my husband. His poor hand was probably so squished. I was like, because remember, 2 hours I was squishing his hand. And he just looked in that direction, and I could see tears in his eyes. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is the moment. I looked back and I saw my baby. And the first thing I said was like, is she okay? And the midwife said, yes, she's okay. Because they had this device that's measuring heart rate. And then when I realized everything is good, I said, oh my God, she is so beautiful. Because guys, this was like the most beautiful baby I've ever seen. And of course, every mother would say that about their child, but she was so beautiful. So, she wasn't thin. She was just quite chunky already. Her weight was normal. I later found out. By the way, everything about how I was treated in the birthing center, everything, how it progressed, my visits and my impressions on the midwives and how I felt they did their job and everything will be in a separate video, and I will link it in the description in case you are interested. So yes, it was incredible feeling, guys. I was carefully I was advised to carefully stand up because, she was attached to me through the cord. So I stood up from my position. Oh, there was one important thing. In the last 2 pushes, I think, maybe 3, in the last 10 or 15 minutes, I was advised to slightly adjust the birthing position. I did this, I will show you in the video, to gain extra millimeters. And I thought, wow, this is great. This is the advice I really wanted. This is the support I was counting for. I was so happy when they told me about this position and that, it's easier. I was like, I was already in such a good state of my mind. I was like, I'm so happy to be here. It was so calm, guys. Everything will be in that separate video, but guys, it was just incredible. It was just me, my husband, and 2 midwives. Little light at the back, not so much. Like, this is how I imagined it to be. I wanted that cozy atmosphere, that stress-free atmosphere. I was absolutely confident everything would go well. When I spoke to my husband later on, he said that he was afraid. So yes, to continue, because my battery has died. So yes, my husband told me that he was really afraid. And I was like, really? What are you afraid of? And he said, I don't know about, I was like, about the baby. She's gonna be fine. I said, yeah, about the baby, about you, whether you will be fine. I was like, really? Like, yeah, I was a bit stressed because you never know what could happen. I was like, oh, well, it didn't, and everything's great. And he was like, yeah, I'm happy. And I was like, wow, I'm really happy that I didn't feel that both of us didn't have to be stressed. I'm so grateful that I had such confidence in this process, in my preparedness for this event, and everything I did prior to the big day, and our selection of the maternity home. I was so confident. I had full trust in the midwives that they were assisting. In my mind, I knew that if something wrong happens, wrong. For me, wrong is when I had to be transferred to a hospital, because that's the only thing I really, really didn't want. I will explain maybe in the separate video why I chose a maternity home, why I chose private birthing center, why I don't like hospitals, why I don't like doctors. And sometimes you have to follow your gut, because if you don't like something and you're forced, you're kind of forced, maybe you're forcing it on yourself because of what other people say, because of what other family members may think, because of other population thinks, oh, this is how it should be done. You should give birth in a hospital. And if you feel deep down that, no, I really don't want to be there, and you do it, things could get really wrong because you're already so stressed, you hate this place. I didn't want to go through that route. I wanted to do what I feel is best. And I came to this decision over many different years. And I came across one book. I don't remember title, unfortunately, but it was about labor and giving birth in hospitals. And just the information in that book resonated with me so intensely. I was like, yep, I agree. I don't want to be there. If I ever have a baby, it will be outside hospital. So yes, guys, 11 years prior to me being pregnant, that was my mindset. So I had to listen to my gut feeling. And I hope you will listen to your gut feeling too, regardless of whether you believe it's in your best interest to be in hospital or not. Because I believe for some people, this is a good solution. And for some, it may not be. I was the one who chose to be outside the hospital, and I am so grateful. I am grateful that everything went well. I am grateful that despite those errors in, judging these contractions, whether they're real or not, or whether they amount to anything, these were they were not serious errors because we still made it. We went to maternity home. It was just on time. I was still in labor for 2 hours. It's not like we arrived and wow, baby was born like this. No, I was still going through intense contractions, but with the support of extraordinary midwives. I felt safe there and I was so happy. Everything happened how it did. But yes, quite interesting how things can progress quickly. That was my first pregnancy. So from first ever felt contraction which was in the afternoon of 2nd of November till 6 a.m. Yeah, 6 a.m. on 3rd November. So that's an evening and a night, and the baby is born. From the very first sign, remember, I had no other signs, no water breaking, no losing mucus plug, no spotting, no blood, nothing basically. I didn't feel any nausea. I don't know. I was in good mood. Everything was great. I felt great. So, yeah. I don't know, maybe I was waiting for something that didn't even occur. So the water was broken when my baby's head was popping through. Yeah. This was the time the water broke. So that was quite unbelievable. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I will be happy to share what I know. And yes, thank you so much for your attention. Make sure to check other videos. I will be posting them on many different topics, starting from motherhood, taking care of the baby, activities for the baby, everything associated with pregnancy, like how I prepared, what I ate, how I exercised, books I was reading, and why I was so confident everything would go really well. Okay, if you're interested in that, please subscribe and I will see you in the next one.